You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Well, not quite, but it is Mr. Producer welcoming you to the conclusion of Mastering Landscaping and Hardscaping Essentials, which we started on Wednesday. My advice, go back and pick up with episode 526, and then once you're finished with that, jump back here for part 2. Brian is talking with Caleb Allman of both the Hardscape Academy and the Kid Contractor Podcast. I'm backing the recording up just a little from where we stopped on Wednesday. So here we go with Brian and Caleb on today's Fullerton Unfiltered.
Some people, really quick, a little side rant, some people will say, well, not everybody can be a molder. Not everybody can be Jeremy Swihart or these guys and do these one-off $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million jobs. Nay. I will push back on that because we had Mark Bradley in from LMN, and he owned a landscaping company. And I forget the exact stats, but Caleb, maybe you can fill in. You know him a little bit better than I do, but he had...
We're like best friends.
Yeah, BFFs, obviously. Snapping, chatting all day.
Yeah, right.
But what did he say at LL? He had a catalog that he had of all of his landscape jobs. I don't know if you caught this, but he had a catalog.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, bro, he got like a print company to make this, $100 catalog, and he would mail them to like, the $2 and $5 and $10 million home subdivisions. Every metro market has these areas of town, and he would have 200 to 300 employees mobilized, 8 different multi-million dollar landscape installs going on at once. Like, so some of you guys are like struggling to do the $4,500 installs and figuring out logistics. I get it. But there's still an opportunity in a market out there for having 8 $1 million landscape installs going on all at once. In fact, he was doing 30, 40 million a year, 50 million a year, I think, almost, with his landscaping company. So like, Caleb, any thoughts you want to piggyback on that? I think that's just wild. Imagine having 10 jobs that Mulder did last year going on all at once. That's ridiculous.
It all comes down to, and it's something you've been, what is it? You've got to be willing and able to relinquish. What is it? You can have control, or you can have, what is that thing you say? You can have growth, or you can have control. Oh no, that's Ken Deemer says that.
Yeah,
you can have growth, or you can have control. Which is it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the control thing comes back to more of a boutique style business, right?
Yep.
Or you can have growth, and that's where you're empowering other people, like the great Woodstock mentality. And that's the thing. You look at those guys that scaled businesses to any level. And even our little level here, where I've got 4 guys out in the field every week, I hardly lift a paver for hire anymore, which there is parts of that I miss.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
But it is about being able to let your people go, know that they're going to make mistakes, and be able and willing to just deal with that. And like one of our guys the other day snagged our daggone big truck door, or a big international truck. The driver door was left open, and they snagged it with a trailer as they drove by and bent the door, and like it won't shut now. And, like, you've just got to accept that like stupid stuff is going to happen. I didn't go out there like flying off the handle and being crazy and still aged. Well, that sucks. I'm glad no one got hurt, and it wasn't someone standing there instead, and got pinched against the truck, and Travis did. Mr. Travis did. It's rare that he breaks anything. He's very diligent with that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I said, dude, it's not a big deal. Don't even worry. It just crap happens. I backed into something the other day. Just when I was growing my company, I knew how much stuff I broke or lost in a month period. And I just knew every person I hired that was going to compound. So just being willing to let go and build your company however you want to build it is what separates your growth or control. That's what that comes down to. And how I mean, even Troy Clog and oh my gosh, my LMN hero,
Mark Bradley.
My brain. Mark Bradley. What is my brain? I got so many different thoughts.
Leroy Jenkins. That's where your brain's at right now.
Dude. This is such a fun topic, Brian. It gets me so excited because there's just so much to unpack here, and there's so much potential in anything you want to do, right? And And so I just get so fired up talking about this stuff. But
it's almost like like you could share all these thoughts on a podcast made for contractors.
if only there was just some medium to like get all these thoughts out there, right? But yeah, it's wild what some guys are able to turn loose and do, and other guys aren't. It's just all personality style, and some of it is growth too. You like personal growth. I've had to grow and learn a lot of different things. And again, the productivity thing is something I still struggle with of like, man, I swear it sure seems like we could get this done by this time. And but I'll tell you, another part of that is team and staff and employees. And we hired a new guy this spring, and he's young. He's a hard charger. He worked for one of my peers in the hardscape industry and was well trained, let's say, in like modern install methods and stuff. And he's been really good for production. He has boosted our production, and some fresh blood, in the company. Like that's been really good. And so not stagnating, which is almost what I'm beginning to think we were to an extent. There's just so much to this stuff, like making sure that production is reasonable and realistic, kind of bringing this back around to 2-3 questions ago. But, making sure that there's this line between owner's production and like a really good team member production, right? And it's kind of realizing like they can get it done about 80% of what you can do in a day, because they're just not, otherwise they would own their own companies for the most part, right? And so that's just the deal.
Well, hey, let me do this really quick. I blocked off an hour. Do you got like 8 or 9 more minutes, and we'll button this up?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. This is really fun.
And for clarity's sake, Brian said 20 minutes at the beginning of this thing, which I know is total bull crap.
That's how
Brian, I love you. I just know never to go off of anything you say when it comes to talk.
I literally have to remove it from my repertoire. Like you keep saying you want to get rid of the word out of your show, which you're doing a lot better, just so you know.
Thank you.
I'm observant, but I also need to stop saying, hey, this is going to be a short and sweet episode, because it never is.
Yeah, I know that you're known for that. I see those comments all the time.
All the time. It's like when your pastor says, hey, we're going to go quick today so we can get you guys out for lunch. And then you're going to be sitting there for at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which, how dare we give 3 hours to the Lord on one day?
Yeah,
week.
I know, right? Oh, it's so inconvenient. Yeah, isn't it terrible?
I say that all the time. I'm like, God, can you believe how long this guy's going? And then I'm like, Fullerton, shut up before you get smited. Like, how stupid am I? So
when we pray in the evening, I say it in front of the kids, but it's like, Lord, and I always start my prayers with, Lord, we pause to give thanks. And I've started saying lately, Lord, we pause, inadequately as it is. We pause to give thanks. And, it's so true. Like, good Lord.
It's like
you can't give but 30 seconds in a day. Like, a bunch of ingrate.
What do they say? People that like can't read for 15 or 30 minutes a night, it's like 4% of your day, or finding time to work out. You can't give 4% of your day. And I'm like, I can't even give 1%, to making a prayer for the day or whatever. We all got work to do. But let me ask you real quick. This would be probably a whole nother show. And again, I would love if you guys talked, not myself personally, I'm a mow and blow guy, but I know the guys listening in that are asking me these questions. Maybe this is all just some great, banter for future topics for your guys' show. And you guys have an amazing show. If you guys haven't listened to it, here's the promo. You got to go check out the Kid Contractor podcast, Caleb and Brittany. They do a banger job. They're in an echelon of their own with, topics, production value, relatability. It's a great show. It is a great show, and you guys need to give yourself some more credit. But
I think that's what they call a backhanded compliment.
No. Ask my sister-in-law about those. But I'm just kidding. So, see, I think that's called a backhanded compliment. Really quick, no, you guys have a great show.
I think that's how you get a misdemeanor.
Get a misdemeanor. Any which way, I got nothing on that one.
Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Really quick though. So you could do a whole nother show on this, and it's talking about managing your cash flow. And I think this is where guys get a lot of good questions.
Since 1982, Exmark has been dedicated to building the world's finest mowers. These machines provide you with a quality of cut that seems impossible, dependability you can measure in lifetimes, and an operator experience like none other. Because Exmark believes if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Visit your local dealer to discover a one-of-a-kind ownership experience and see the difference for yourself.
if you're doing a $50,000 job, sounds cool. It's awesome. It keeps the guys busy for a whole month, let's say, right? And you're in this hypothetical company. Also, it ties up your cash flow for the whole month. Like you're out $50,000 or, $30,000 of material costs, let's say in labor and material. I don't know landscaping, but let's say you're out $30,000 on this $50,000 job, versus, here's the juxtaposition. I'd love to hear you weigh in on it. Is you have these $1,500 day jobs or $2,500 day jobs or whatever, the company needs to similarly turn for production on that 4-day work schedule. So what is the right approach, or how have you guys navigated Allman Landscape? Like, what is your guys' approach for helping manage cash flow? Because sometimes you're not getting paid for some of this work for 30, 60, 90 days, or sometimes people I've noticed are fronting the whole $30,000, and then the customer holds them over the coals for the punch out list and says, no, that arborvitae died, and they're holding a $50,000 landscape check for a $300 shrub replacement. So how have you guys navigated cash flow? Do you have any tips for cash flow? Pricing jobs, draw systems. I know you guys do talk a lot about this on the show, but while we button this podcast up today, I think this is like the last big nail I wanted to put in the coffin to see if you wanted to weigh in and on for, the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, buddy. So this is, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that nightmare scenario of like somebody did their biggest job ever. It was, $5,000 job, $10,000 job, $20,000 job, whatever. And they did 50-50 payment, right? 50% up front, 50% on the back end. And okay, cool. On the front end of things, ball is in your court now, buddy. Like, you are in good shape. You get the job 3/4 done or even complete, so it starts out, you've got half their money, right? And then at the end, they got half your money, which is the worst place to be, depending, depending on what side of the table you're.
Right.
And it's exactly that, like, hey, well, there's some things over here we don't like, or, oh, what do you know? We just happen to be out of town on vacation that last week that you're finishing up, and we'll pay you when we get back. And if you're a little business, like, that hurts. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why 50-50 draw system is horrible. And on big jobs or little jobs, we do fit, actually, I'll break that down. But there's a couple different things there. A guy that we broke this down after this job. We did like a $10,000 patio for this guy way back in the day. And I told him we had a 50-50 draw. And I've known this guy for a little while and done some other work for him. And he's like, Caleb, I'm not worried about you taking off my money. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. But he said, Caleb, if you leave here with my $5,000 check, and this guy runs a huge electrical contracting company in Columbus. And he said, Caleb, if you leave here, go to the bank whenever you go to the bank, deposit that money, and then you get hit by a bus the next day, I've got to go to your grieving family for $5,000 at some point to try to get my money back. He's like, I don't want to do that. And so he taught me the concept of draw payments. And so what that comes down to, and again, you tailor this however it makes sense to your company and whatever your cash, for a $2 million company, a $20,000 project is not a big deal, right? You just pay me, I'm fine with half and half. You can afford to take the beating, if you will, if you have to, right? It's easier than just breaking it down into a bunch of like $4,000 payments, right? But for for us, if we're going to do a $20,000 job, let's say, a lot of times when we're just in the estimating process and the client gives us the verbal go ahead, okay, awesome. We'll get you our final documentation. We have a $1,000 scheduling deposit. That's going to get you in on the 3rd week of July, starting in the 3rd week, not a specific day, but just the 3rd week. We've got you booked in, on the whiteboard that week. Mm-hmm. That gets you in. So in the meantime, while we're getting all these contract details ironed out, you've got a spot, and every day you're getting closer and closer instead of waiting to the last minute and you're bumped out 6 weeks or something. Cool. Once we get the final contract drawn up, then it breaks down into draw payments, and let's say it's $20,000, and just for easy math, to break down this way, we're going to do 5 payments of $4,000. So we're going to order materials. They're going to show up the day they show up. We want to check for $4,000, and then the first day we're on site, we want another check for $4,000. So sometimes the first day we're there, clients write us a check for $8,000. Mm-hmm. And then we have progress payments on top of that. So it just depends on the job. So what Brit will do is like usually it's base installed and main field of pavers laid. That's another draw of $4,000. Pavers cut in and sanded and all that stuff. That's another payment of $4,000. Blah, blah, blah. So we break it down by how the job progresses. And the idea is to get the job to where, again, this was just for simple math, but the idea is to get the job down to where they only owe us 5, 10, 15, 20% at the very end of the project. And even when we can on special projects to where they only owe us a couple $1,000.
Mm.
And so that protects everyone. And the way I tell that to my clients is, and most reasonable folks understand this. And if they're unreasonable, don't work for them. If they're crazy, don't work for them. That's, again, a Paver King quote here, that fraud. He says, you make the most money on the jobs you don't take.
Mm.
And man, that's sometimes the case. If you think they're going to be a nut job, don't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I digress. And again, and just for the context, I'm joking about calling Paver King a fraud because, but anyways.
No, I get it.
but that's the way. But that's the way we break those jobs down. And what I tell the clients is, this protects you and me. This is the most fair. You pay for everything that has been done or been provided. And so when those pavers land, you own the pavers. If I get hit by a truck, those pavers are paid for. My family's paid, and you still have your pavers. You got to find somebody else to finish a job, but that's not my problem now.
Right.
You know, if I'm hit by a truck, right?
Right.
And we've already done the excavating. Okay, great. Well, we've performed that work for you. Blah 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 blah. And that's a way to like safely think. Now, for a job for $1,000, that's a little harder to like. Unless that $1,000 job takes you a week, yeah, I would say that. On the residential end, that's the way that helps us tremendously with cash flow.
So
absolutely great.
So the smaller jobs, this is really, really good. I mean, when you have a larger company, you can probably, it's all proportional is what I think we're saying. So if you have a $1 million company or $5 million company, you know, and you got $100,000 landscape job, you should still be doing 5 draws at $20,000 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Simple math. But if you have a smaller company doing, you know, $4,500 landscape jobs, $1,500 landscape jobs, I can't imagine there wouldn't be a reason why you shouldn't be able to get a check out of a customer for $1,500 for a landscape job.
Absolutely.
So you should be able to solve that cash flow problem. If it's a $4,500 job, and some of you guys, and look, dude, I get it. Like $1,000 to somebody listening in that's brand new is like $1 million. And other of you guys, you're burning $1,000 an hour worth of, you know, production and labor. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yeah,
it's wild. Like Liz and I, the other day, we got, just yesterday, we got a draw check, our first draw check for the construction of our home. And it was 15G short between the bank and what my builder cut me a check back for. And we're talking a 6-digit check. And it was just for the foundation and some basic stuff. And I said, Liz, like, it's wild that this check's $15,000 short. We got to figure out what's the difference, the discrepancy between the bank and my builder for the receipt submitted. It's a small issue. It's a non-issue. It's just, you know, it's just paperwork. It's just a bunch
That's
of
building a house, man.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary extra work now, which it is what it is. But I'm like, I laughed. I said, dude, $15,000. I said, Liz, like, remember when? And we're not big time, but I said, remember when $15,000 was like, I would have been calling my builder till midnight, you know, on repeat. Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my, you know what I mean? Like, and so I get, for all of you guys listening in, $1,000 can mean a lot. $1,000 can not mean a lot. Like $15,000 can mean a lot, not mean a lot. But no matter, the point is you should be keeping an eye on your cash flow, and you don't want to get too far out over your skis in obligations, but you also don't want to be so lax and so casual where you're not following up on some of these invoices or adhering to your own draw system and keeping your customers' feet to the coals and to the fire. I don't care if it's a $4,500 landscape job. Maybe your company's at where it needs to be, where you have to do a 3-draw system, even for a $4,500 landscape job. That's okay. Just communicate it to your customer. Let that expectation be set up front. $1,500 to get on the schedule, $1,500 at halfway, $1,500 for a punch out, whatever. Or use that line I said. This way you're protected. I'm paid for what I've done and provided, and you have paid for what you have received. I love it. And that's a great way to manage cash flow on some of these jobs. And for some of you guys that are out $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 of exposure, my gosh, I couldn't imagine. I mean, like our builder, we've got four or five draws, and they're chunks, big chunks, as you guys can imagine, for the builder fee. But we're not building a home, and then at the end he goes, "Hey, don't forget my 15% or 20%."
Right. Yeah.
I will assure you that is not the conversation. Like like you said, if somebody gets smoked by a bus tomorrow, they want to make sure they're getting paid for every checkpoint that they hit along the way. So, also, this is why we say, leave a war chest in the checking account. Don't just pull it all out to go buy jet skis because you had a good summer. Like,
yeah,
for crying out loud.
Having some cash on hand is Brian, to quote, I'll drop some wise words on you here.
Sure.
to quote Wu-Tang Clan, cash rule everything around me, end quote.
Well, the sages have spoken, right? The apostles.
One other thing on a serious note. On the commercial end of like contracting, so we've got in July is going to be a big month for some commercial contracts. Once we do on the stormwater management thing, we've got, I can't remember how much it is. Brittany and I have a meeting today actually talking about our cash flow projections for July because they're going to suck. And we're doing, on top of our landscape stuff, I think we've got, I can't remember, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 worth of commercial work next month that we don't get paid for 45 days.
Sure.
And we've got to front all the labor for the month and materials. So her and I are like just kind of running through and just kind of planning next month, knowing, again, that's where that schedule comes in handy, because now we know, okay, we're going to front $30,000, $40,000 in materials and labor next month that we're not going to see for 45 days. And so we're making just arrangements and making sure the right money's in the right places and all that stuff for payroll content, because my guys aren't going to wait 45 days to get paid.
Right.
So, we're just kind of like going through this and just kind of pre-gaming, knowing that next month is going to suck. And that's where that schedule is handy, because if you've got, some commercial contracts, commercial mulch jobs, whatever, where you don't get paid for that length, it helps you begin to figure out, okay, yeah, because at the end of July, it shouldn't be a shock to us like, holy crap, cash sucks right now. What is going on? No, we know we've been producing all this work. We know exactly how much, we've got to float out of the business coffers and whatever. And so it won't be a shock when we do our statement at the end of next month. Okay, it's all hanging out there, on commercial stuff. And that's a thing too, to be looking ahead at just for cash flow projections when you're doing commercial work. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, it's being intentional, it's being focused, it's spending time, as you guys have heard ad nauseum, I think is your line, Caleb, like you got to be intimately involved with all the numbers in your business. And that's why for some of you guys that are looking to grow more into the landscaping side of things, that's kind of what this topic is. This podcast is really heavy focused on, but don't just be so quick to just, I think Caleb, one of your great lines is don't shoot the winning racehorse. It's like, don't just shoot your mowing and get rid of your mowing. Like you can ease into landscaping. You can go 5 days mowing, 1 day landscaping on the weekends, 4 days, 2, 3 days and 3 days, 2 days and 1, whatever. Or have a mow route and have a landscape route as you continue to grow that. You got a thought, Caleb?
Well, I was going to say, what I tell folks there, and probably the same thing you do too, is if guys that want to start transitioning into landscape construction or whatever, and they have a mow route currently and they don't want to give it all up, well, this is a great time to start firing your worst clients, your slow pays, and start whittling that route down to get the ideal route, right? And start to free up, a couple of days during the week and, start to make that transition that way. And that's always, my thought on that there anyway.
I love it. That's a good thought. One other thing that I had a note written down earlier that you sparked a thought that I had for myself was on this past Friday, we did a landscape job. We did a mulch install. It was a Mickey Mouse little 5-yard brown mulch premium mulch install. We're at $125 a yard installed. It's for a residential client. He's been extremely good to us. Been a client for like 15 years. Installed at $110 a yard, which is okay. It's a dump and pour. It's great access. Toro multi-force. In and out 2-hour job. We had all 3 guys working it because we just wanted to chip it out. It was kind of a last minute request. I said sure. But when you run the numbers, if you guys are listening in, run the numbers with me. Like 3 labor hours per guy. I got 9 labor hours. Let's say it's $25 an hour. That's $220, whatever, $225 in labor. I don't even know. I got another $130 in mulch. I'm at $230. I'm at $330, $360. That doesn't count for any company overhead. And I'm installing it at $550. Like, and I told Liz, she goes, so how'd the guys do with the mulch day? They wrapped up at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., on Friday. And it was like whatever, we'll just do it because the guy's nice and a great customer. But did we make an obscene amount of money on that? No. So I told Liz, I said, I think we have to have like a landscape minimum, obviously. And we have a mow day minimum. We have everything else minimum. We, of course, should have landscape minimums. But it was just an interesting thought. I said, dude, like one flat tire, one guy getting in an accident, hey, if I buy lunch for the guys on Friday, I said, we made no money. Like we made no money on this job. Like we have to, even if it's a 5-yard mulch install, we should have charged him, $795. Hey man, sorry, it's got to be a half day, $1,500 day of production, which is what we aim for mowing. It is what it is. So just a quick little nuanced thought.
All it would have taken was somebody backing the Toro multi-force over the mailbox to ruin the day.
Right. Anything.
And so
breaking a
I
shovel.
do plenty of that stuff where we do things too cheap. Sometimes I get it. And I think of that kind of stuff of like, we're still exposing ourselves to the entire world of risk to cut a discount to a customer. It's the dumbest thing you can do in business. And I do it all the freaking time.
We still do it
here.
Yep.
I do it all the damn time.
Just did it 3 days ago.
Again, I take Paver King. I take it the Paver King route. I just call it marketing at that point. But like,
sure,
anything stupid I do, I just call marketing anymore. But yeah, I tell you, it is tough. And that's the thing. I've got a story I can't release yet from a buddy contractor of mine that had a wild circumstance. And it just reminds you of how much risk is out there in ways that you can't even imagine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say I've seen it all, but I'm really starting to feel like I'm getting real close, Brian.
Well, I think it was somebody said on their podcast, once you start saying you think you've seen it all, then something comes out of nowhere and you go, I didn't need to see that.
Exactly. That's why I said I think I'm close. I know I haven't seen it all, but I think I feel like some days I'm getting pretty close.
But that's the point of this podcast. That's the point of your podcast. The point of this show is, as you guys, most of you listening in know, we're all learning and growing together, as kumbaya as it is. I mean, I was joking with Liz. I said, not only do we only make probably $150 on that landscape install, I said, after taxes, once the company pays tax and I get paid on it, I said, I'm probably made $38 that day, which is totally worth. I said, so the guys, ironically enough, all the guys working that day all made more money than me. I said, I'm exposing a $110,000 rig going down the road so I can go get T-boned for make $38. And yep. I'm like, it's just like the stuff that you do. And again, I knew that we weren't going to make a ton on it. I went into it with that expectation, but it was just like another aha, like, hey, maybe we should have some day minimums. And so one quick thing I wanted to just button up as we button up for the third time. That's what we do on my show, Caleb.
I know. Oh, it's so fun. I love talking with you about this stuff, Brian. It's a blast.
But I mean, literally, we could do plenty more shows on this. I really have been sandbagging a lot of these questions to get finally over to you guys. But I love what you said too. Like, you got to kind of know your company's minimum. Like you said, whether we install, and I don't know anything about pavers again, but if you're installing a 200 square foot paver patio or an 800 square foot paver patio, like, it might not be significantly more money because you have to have those day minimums of that overhead just to get to the job, just to mobilize the crew. And
right.
And I thought that was such a great point. And that actually, it's funny how you get all these similarities, because Liz and I were at the pool show, swimming spa show, whatever, at the Suburban Collection, actually, where LAL is hosted. It's our States Convention Center. It's an awesome place. And the guy said, I was inquiring about pools, and he goes, hey, if you go 12 by, I think 24, he goes, it's, X amount of money. But he goes, honestly, man, he goes, if I was you, he goes, if you go, whatever it was, folks, he goes, if you go, 16 by 34, he goes, it's actually like only a 10 grand difference. And I was like, that's impossible. I said, I'm getting literally 50% more pool. He goes, I know. He goes, but the overhead of all this, the shell, the transport costs, he goes, it's the same truck, whether they got a 12 by 24 pool or a 12 by 38 foot pool. He goes, it's actually
same big excavator. Yep.
Yeah. I got to get the excavator on site to dig a hole. The guy's got 2 extra labor hours digging the hole 8 feet wider and 2 feet deeper. Like, it is interesting. So there's a lot of interesting thoughts. I just find that like fascinating conversation.
Economy of scale. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, there you go. For my my intelligent folks like Caleb, who is a staunch libertarian, and he's got all of his very, very grandiose thoughts and ways of explaining things, obviously, that is unfamiliar to our audience, Caleb. So,
Brian, they say if you can't impress them with knowledge, baffle them with bullshit. So
yeah, well, that or just get great guests on like yourself and Dan Martell, So people are like, hey, you did a great. That Dan Martell podcast was awesome. I'm like, it was
what
because
a disservice you just did to Dan Martell having the same business with him. Jeez. Well, I can't believe you disrespect a guy like that. Poor Dan.
He's not listening to my show, so don't worry about it.
He wouldn't know anyway.
But Dan, my wife doesn't listen to my show. You think I'm gonna get Dan Martell? So
that's fair.
I digress. But that's because Dan talked 95% of the time. That's why it was a great show. You know what I'm saying? So
there you go. Right.
I take my cues.
When is LAL?
It's going to be November 11th, Saturday this year, and tickets should go on sale in about 10 days on first week of July is what I'm aiming for.
How much are they this year?
Still running the numbers. I think we did an early bird for $197 last year or something like that. And then I think the late registration was $249. We actually secured all of our sponsors this year. We were down a sponsor last year, which we took a hit on the event, which whatever, it is what it is. It was a 10 grand hit. Couldn't care less. Life goes on. But we got a full roster for sponsorship. So we're not going to be having to adjust the ticket price. Praise the Lord. So yeah, it's should be $200 plus or minus.
Here's my pitch for that to the audience, because, and this is no crap. For $250, folks, to be in a room with the Troy Clogs and the Mark Bradleys and who are speaking this year. I don't know who's speaking this year, but like, you get access to guys running $1 million companies, and you can go up to them during the day for $200 for a ticket for the day. You can go ask these guys any questions through the day. If find them and ask them a question. That is really, it's a steal for consulting or one-on-one question asking. You're buying access to multi-million-dollar professionals for $250. I'm a hardscape contractor, landscape contractor. I'm not in lawn care at all. And I go to LAL, and I still would go to LAL even down the road, because I get access to Troy Clog, a guy I've never gotten to talk to in my life. And I can go, pick his brain at lunchtime or whatever. Folks, it's insane access for the price. I can't, and it's crazy too, how actually few people would actually go up and ask these guys questions. And like, I'd see Mark Bradley last year or whoever, like, by himself. He should not be by himself during the day. You guys need to be in there asking questions for $250. You can't even buy a coaching call from Brian for that cheap. Like, yeah, it's crazy. I agree. It's an insane value, Brian. It's so awesome. I can't say enough of the opportunity, if you go to this, to ask these guys that run big companies your deepest questions you want for $250. It's insane. And you get lunch, and that's like great.
Yeah. I
can't say enough about that access opportunity. It's insane.
Thanks. I appreciate the attaboy. Checks in the mail. But
that wasn't for you. That wasn't for you. That was for the people to go get really good advice for $250.
I'm telling you, folks, like, I'll tell you what, here's what I say. There's only one thing I sell all year, right? Because if you've never gone, you don't know what you don't know. And I say that obviously as respectfully as possible, but that's the only thing I sell all year is going to Launchpreneur Academy Live, because there's enough hype to go to Equip Expo. It's fine. It's awesome. It's great. And I love Equip. We're going to go. It's going to be a great time. But if you've never been to a lawn care conference, people are like, you're going to talk about like laying stripes all day for 8 hours? I'm like, yes, but not really. It's about success. Okay. And the people coming on stage all have 7-figure plus businesses. It's not a groupie con. I'm telling you, it's business. And there's a lot of great conventions going on. They all have different roles and different themes and different purposes and different, what you call it, Caleb, like priorities or themes or messages, and that's all fine. Like, yeah. There's a bunch of great ones. Caleb and Brittany, for real, folks, I'm so great to have them on the show. That the caliber that they're at, they're invited to 2 or 3 of these things, I think, just this fall and winter coming up. So make sure you find them on the docket, on the tour, wherever they may be speaking and sharing.
I don't know why we get asked. We suck so bad at public speaking. We keep getting asked for this stuff. It drives me crazy.
Well, you guys are showing it. You guys are showing at LAL. So I'm telling you, you guys are of that caliber and above to grace the stage as a Corey Ballard, as a Mark Bradley, and it's something that Liz and I are still working on as our pet project is behind the scenes. We have to keep pumping up the almonds and telling them that they're actually great people. And so if you guys want to do a big solid, leave them a 5-star rating and review on their show and tell them that, hey, you guys actually are awesome. Because we do believe that.
I don't need the boost, the morale boost. I'm good.
That's fine. Just leave them.
Go to LAL. It's insane. It's such a good value. It's crazy. If it was all about laying stripes and stuff all day, I wouldn't go. It wouldn't appeal to me. But it appeals to a business person. If you want to be a business person, this is the place to go.
Well, I will assure you guys, the inmates are in charge in the prison. So if you guys want to change anything about the conference, it's a living, breathing thing that we can do and modify. But I'll tell you what, I know the speaker lineup that we have coming this year. Again, no hype. It's bar none, second to none. I'd put it against any other conference going on this year, from a social media person putting something on to folks that have more corporate settings as well. I would run our conference against anybody out there, bar none, for the price and for the speakers. Like, I just there's conferences I still rack my brain, Caleb, and no shade, but they're $2,500, and I just don't get it. And then they bring in 300 to 500 people, and I'm like, am I not doing a good enough job marketing that our thing exists? Because if people really knew, there should be 2,500 people at our conference. That's where I really believe. Liz and I have a photo on our dream board of filling the bottom bowl of Little Caesars arenas with the Jumbotron and having 2,500 people in that convention center, having the biggest,
I've seen that.
Yeah. Like Green Industry Landscaping Conference. And we're petered out at 350 people coming to this thing. And I'm like, how can you not for $250 get around some of the best, not motivational speakers like Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone, all great in their own right, pick your guy. But I'm like, these people are actually doing what you're doing. Like that's the shocking part to me, that there's not 2,500 people there. Maybe the ticket price is too low and people don't treat it serious. Grant Cardone charges $10,000 a ticket.
There's an argument to be had about that. Yeah, I've heard that argument made about a lot of things.
Maybe that's it.
You and I are both mutually involved in. Yeah, even our training videos we sell. Like I've had people tell me, no, if you had them higher price, people would think they're more valuable, which is insane because they're. Yeah, it's such a funny dynamic. It's so strange.
It's alarming that more people aren't there, but I'm of course exceedingly grateful, obviously, for the people that do go there, because everybody that's gone there, I've made best friends with so many great people that have come, year over year, and have nothing but great things to say. And they're like, hey, when are the tickets going on sale? I'm like, one more week, we're going to rock and roll. And of course, I'm exceedingly grateful for everybody that comes and attends. But it only happens once a year. And I always say, success is not most likely coming to your doorstep. So, hey, it's going to be in Novi, Michigan. And Caleb and a bunch of other great people are going to be sharing and pouring into you guys. So we can't wait to, have you guys all there. Caleb, that's where I got, man. I didn't mean to take an hour and 30 minutes of your freaking day. That's, I feel like now I'm going to get an invoice at the almond rate. Nothing's free. You know what I'm saying? So, whatever we can do to reciprocate, as always, let us know. But thank you for taking time to share. I think this is probably one of the best landscaping, hardscaping podcast episodes we have in our library. So I just want to say thanks for sharing and pouring into these guys, man. We really do appreciate it.
This was a blast, Brian. I had forgotten how fun it is to go with you at length on this kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll do it again. Let's do it. So, thank you, buddy.
Sounds good, brother. All right, guys. Well, Caleb, we'll sign off in true podcast fashion and form. Where can they find you? And we'll button it up right there.
Everywhere on social, at Almond Landscape, LLC generally. And we have a State Contractor Podcast, Hardscape Academy, and some other stuff going on. Say hey, but yeah, be a businessman. That's the first thing.
There you go. All right, man. Well, hey, Caleb, thanks again for taking time to be on the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Guys, we're going to cut it right here, and we're going to send it over to Marty, Mr. Producer, to button this thing up. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're back here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail, guys. It's real, authentic lawn care, helping you guys grow a more successful lawn and landscaping business in 2023. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to catching up with you guys here on the next one.
Since 1982, Exmark has been dedicated to building the world's finest mowers. These machines provide you with a quality of cut that seems impossible, dependability you can measure in lifetimes, and an operator experience like none other. Because Exmark believes if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Visit your local dealer to discover a one-of-a-kind ownership experience and see the difference for yourself.
Hi, I'm Mr. Producer, and one more thing. If you're looking to stay up to date with the latest trends and insights in the world of lawn care, then you need our free email newsletter. It's delivered 3 times a week and includes a Monday motivational to kick off your week, a Wednesday what's new to keep you informed, and a Friday weekly recap of all the content we put out. Join our mailing list to stay connected to the world of lawn care and get exclusive access to the latest and greatest from Fullerton Unfiltered and Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Don't miss out on this opportunity to stay ahead of the curve and elevate your lawn care game. Sign up now with the link we've provided in the show description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.